Hey there, it's Tyson. And today, for this Saturday episode, I'm going to talk about vacations. And before those of you that say, hey, I don't have time for a vacation, I'm going to give you a step-by-step way of getting ready for vacation so you can actually take a vacation and enjoy it while you are gone, because stepping away from your firm, even briefly, does require some strategic planning, but it is necessary for you to really recharge your battery and get some of that creativity back that you need. You got to spend time with your family. You're not going to want to, in 30 years, 20 years, 30 years, wherever you are on the timeline, 40 years, you don't want to regret not spending time with friends, family, and so friends and family. So I'm going to hopefully give you some tools on how to address that. But before I do, I just make sure if you want maximum lawyer minimum time, for those of you that have been listening for a while, if you've not gotten it, make sure you get it. Get stage one for new listeners. Get stage one of maximum lawyer minimum time. It's the roadmap that Jim and I created that we give to all guild members absolutely free. You're going to get stage one for free just for being an amazing listener. And just text stage one to 314-501-9260. That's the number or the word, either one. Stage one, 314-501-9260. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite places to vacation with family. I don't know if it's the number one. It might be, but we really love going to the Smoky Mountains. We really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Kids like seeing the bears and being out in the woods and going hiking, and it's a really cool place to recharge. What's also kind of cool is on the Tennessee side, at least, there's a lot of touristy things. So if you do want to take the kids into town to do some touristy things, you can do that as well. But it is one of those things where we normally go once a year. And one of the first times we went, I don't know if it was the absolute first time, but our daughter, she had been wanting to go on a vacation, and she came home one day and said, hey, I want to go to the Smokies. And we talked about doing it, and we had taken a trip, and we hadn't really decided on anything. And we did things maybe the wrong way. We did things where I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you do, but we got on Vrbo or Airbnb that night and booked a place for the week and left town the next day. And so it was a lot of time, a lot of fun. And luckily we have a wonderful team that did not interrupt me at all. It was awesome. And they really allowed us to enjoy our time. And that's what I want for you. But for those of you that are maybe in a smaller firm, I understand that it's very challenging to do something like that. For those of you that are in bigger firms, same thing. I get it. It can be tough, but I want you to be able to have the same thing, those same types of well-deserved vacations without worrying about the firm while you're gone. Now, could I have done that every single week? No, because of other obligations, but I just so happened to have that week available, and we had the resources, the team that could fill in where need be. And so I was able to. But let's do things the right way. And let's first talk about the role of your assistant, or whatever you want to call them, but you're going to have someone that you can really rely on in this. And so it's one of those things that, having an assistant, once you get to a certain size, I definitely recommend having an executive assistant, but even if it's just someone that office administrator, someone like that you can rely on while you're gone, really important. But before you leave, you're going to want to brief them thoroughly. So whoever this point person is, you're going to want to brief them about everything that's going on. While I'm gone, my executive assistant, Elizabeth, she monitors my emails, she monitors my messages, and she is the main point of contact, the only point of contact for staff while I'm gone. During the vacation, she is empowered to handle routine matters and only reach out to me if there's an absolute emergency. And having this buffer it's key to ensuring that I'm not going to be bombarded with a bunch of messages, and that the firm runs smoothly without me being there. Really, I can't stress that buffer enough. But now let's kind of give you a step-by-step on what you should do in preparation for the vacation. About 2 weeks before leaving, you're going to want to brief your team and any clients that you need to inform of your upcoming unavailability. And you're going to want to assure them that your assistant or whoever the point person is going to be handling any of your matters in your absence. So you're going to want to give them someone that they can reach out to, because if you don't, they're going to reach out to you. Okay, so doesn't matter. None of this matters if you don't give them a point person. So you're going to want to give them a point person to reach out to, especially those of you crazies that give your clients cell phone numbers. You're going to want to give them a point of contact in case they need to reach out to you and get a hold of you. Number 2 is you're going to delegate specific responsibilities. Okay, so you're going to assign responsibilities to your team members. Ensure that each person knows what's expected of them and how to handle specific scenarios that may arise. One thing to consider is, as you're doing this, start to document it. Okay, so this is what happens if blank occurs, and then you explain what happens. And as you document that, you're not going to have to tell people the next time, because they're going to already know, right? Because you've got it documented somewhere. So that's a little side point, but make sure you're delegating specific responsibilities. This is what happens if a court calls. This is what happens if a new lead calls. Assign different responsibilities to different people. The third thing is emergency protocol. Okay, so you're going to establish a very clear definition of what constitutes an emergency, and then you're going to tell them what to do if that actually happens. But this is going to ensure that you're only contacted when absolutely necessary. But you need to define for them, and I'm not going to define for you what an emergency is. What an emergency for your firm is going to be different from an emergency for our firm. You're going to also want to list some examples so people have an idea, kind of like what I did before when it comes to, before I'm talking about, again, another episode, I talked about an urgent matter. We talked about office hours in a previous episode. And if a client were driving to the office looking for the office because they had a deposition scheduled, that's an urgent matter. Now, this is not an emergency, but that's an urgent matter. But that's an example of an urgent matter. That way someone might break the office hours protocol to reach out to you. Now, so that's something that's urgent, right? Here's something that might be an emergency. Client says that they are on their way to the office for their deposition. You're out of town. That sounds like it might be an emergency, but what you would do is you would hand it off to they would contact the assistant. The assistant would try to resolve the matter, and they probably would be able to. That's a situation. Well, it's actually pretty simple. Even though it may seem like an emergency, it's probably more just urgent than anything else, because you could say, well, the reality is there's nothing we can do about it because I'm out of town. So the assistant would work on rescheduling everything, letting the necessary people know. Great. However, what may be an emergency, if you're a criminal defense attorney and you don't have a jury trial scheduled on your calendar and your case gets called out. So I'll use the city of St. Louis, for example. City of St. Louis, for criminal cases, they put you on this rollover docket, and then your case might get called out on a Monday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, or it may not get called out at all. Maybe you don't have it on your calendar and your case gets called out. Well, that's an emergency that you're going to have to deal with. Is anything going to happen? Are you going to be able to appear? Probably not, but you could at least address it. So that's an emergency. There is a distinct difference between urgent and emergency, and you need to define that for your people. The next thing is that, make sure you're preparing your point of contact. So you're going to provide your assistant or your point of contact with all the necessary information and resources they need on where you're going to be and how to get a hold of you. So this includes access to files, key contacts, any detailed instructions on handling various scenarios. So you're going to want to make sure that they have all the information that they need to handle any matters while you're gone. Really important. And then the last thing This is simple, but it's something you should do. Set your out of office reply. Just remember to do that. That way people know if they do respond to you or email you that they're not going to get a response right away, and they may not get one for 1 or 2 weeks. It depends on how long you're gone. But let them know in that out of office reply that how they can get a hold of your assistant. So give their information, give their email, give the phone number to the office and who to speak to. Make sure that they have that information. That way they can get any answers for any urgent matters that they might have. All right. So I can just tell you from my personal experience, I can't stress enough the importance of trusting your team in this. I know that many of you have issues with that. You have trust issues, but you've got to trust your team. If you don't, you're never going to get to the point where you can go and you relax somewhere. You've got to give them the ability to make mistakes. They might make some mistakes while you're gone, but most mistakes can be fixed. You're going to want to delegate here. Resist the urge to micromanage. Remember, vacations are meant to be fun, but a big part of it is disconnecting from work so you can recharge. All right, so remember to effectively take a vacation, you're going to want to prepare as a firm owner. It might seem daunting, but use those steps that I just gave you, and it's absolutely doable. Trust your team to handle the things while you're gone. As a reminder, if you have something you want me to cover on the Saturday show, shoot me a text and I'll try to cover it. 314-501-9260. I would love to hear from you. We've had just so many great suggestions, and I will continue to get them to them as I can. Until next week, remember that consistent action is the blueprint that turns your goals into reality. Take care.